Hey everybody, just wanted to take a couple minutes here and go over kind of an in-depth video training lesson about installing bulkheads. I'm doing this for my online video school, but I'll probably share this one out. There's some content on the online school that's only available for the online school students, but this one is kind of a basic thing, and there's probably a ton of these out there. But installing bulkhead fittings, I get a lot of questions about, hey, how do I get my water to my machine? How do I get my soap to my Dougenator or metering device, proportioner, whatever it is that you use when you're using a dedicated pump. So how do I get my water, my bleach, and my soap, all of that to from my tanks to my metering device to my pump, so on and so forth. So I just thought I'd do a quick little video, or actually not real quick, but kind of in depth. Hopefully you guys can use this when it comes time to install your bulkhead fittings for getting your solutions or your water to whatever piece of equipment that you need to get it to. This is just a small square tank that I'm using for the demonstration purposes. But you know, this could be a 100-gallon tank, 300-gallon tank, 400-gallon tank, whatever you're going to use. It's all going to be the same. These are bulkhead fittings. They come in various sizes. This is a 1/2 inch, 1 inch or 1.5 inch, whatever. So they come in 1/2 inch, 3/4, 1 inch, 1.5, all kinds of different types of sizes that they come in. And for this purpose, I'm going to be using a smaller one, a 1/2 inch one, and we're going to be putting one right up here on the top, as if we're going out to a metering device or a downstream injector or whatever, whatever it is that you need to go to. Whenever I'm doing water or bleach, especially, I always come through the top. Water to feed a machine, a pressure washer, I do from the bottom, but water to feed a dedicated pump and going to a mixing valve system like the Dougenator or whatever it is that you use, I always do those bulkheads from the top. So about the only thing that I will put down at the bottom will just be a bulkhead fitting that's feeding a pressure washer. So anyway, this is a 1/2 inch. And I've got fittings here that, will go into it once we get it installed. I'll show you how you do those. But basically what you're going to do is you've got what's called a hole saw. And this is what one looks like. Goes into a drill. It's got a little drill bit here that goes into your drill. It sticks out a little bit. That gets the hole started. And then this part of this hole saw actually drills the hole. And so I basically make sure I've got the right size by putting it over. I want it to sit nice and easy on there, not have a lot of play. And basically it's going to come down a little bit past that smooth part. And I just want it to touch and sit on top of the threads. You do not want it too big like that where there's room. That can cause leaks. That's especially important on the ones that you put on the bottom at the top. It could leak from sloshing around or whatever if you fill your tank or whatever. But that's what we use. We just use a drill for the hole saw. Just put it in your drill like that. And then a lot of times what I'll do, if I'm putting one up top like this, I'll use a cup. This is a little cheap painter's cup. I'm a big user of Advocare Spark products for energy and focus, and ADD, RB is what I have. So I'll use these two. I just keep these and use them for various things, but that's one of the things I'll use because they're easy to hold. But what I'm doing on the top is I'm going to take this and put it inside if I can get my hand and the cup in there, which on this one I may not be able to. But I want to hold it from the bottom. I'm not going to be able to, well, I can. And so I'm going to drill my hole straight down there, and the purpose of that little cup is to catch my shavings. once I've drilled my hole, I'm not going to pull my little cup out yet. I'm going to take all my metal shavings, I'm going to brush them off, get them off. I'm going to kind of trim around and pull the loose stuff off of the hole. Get it all nice and cleaned up. All I'm trying to do is just prevent the shavings from falling down into my tank here. You can vacuum it out if you want to. You know, you can't use that little cup, of course, when you're doing the ones on the bottom. You have to use a vacuum to vacuum those out. But on these ones that go on the top like this, I always like to use some type of cup just so I don't have to pull a vacuum cleaner out if I don't have to. But basically that's what you're left with, is a nice little hole. And so what we'll do is we'll take our bulkhead fitting, and the bulkhead fittings come just like this. And you've got a thick piece, soft gasket there, and you've got another harder plastic piece of a gasket, and then you've got the top, and the top is labeled tighten or loosen. So you always want to make sure when you put this on that the letters are facing up. But this is the bottom part of it, the one with the thick gasket. That's the part that's going to go inside the tank. And so we're basically just going to take our hand with this and the gasket, the thick gasket on the bottom. We'll reach into the tank. We're going to slide it up like that, put the plastic gasket on it, the hard plastic, and then tighten this counterclockwise, and you screw that down, and that's your bulkhead fitting. So now you want to put your fittings on there. What I use is drop tubes, and this is what I use. One of these adapters, PVC, that slip here, threaded here, half inch. We'll take some all-purpose cement, PVC glue, and we'll coat that. And we put this on, and that's going to keep that nice and sealed. And then for the threaded part, we're going to take our black dope, and we use this Rector Seal Slow Dry Soft Set number 7, and it's stated down here, pipe thread sealant, corrosive chemical formula. That's what we use. Anytime you're using plastic fittings, you always want to use some type of soft dope like this, soft sealant like this. And so we would take some and just coat a little bit on here. You don't have to get it on thick or whatever. I just kind of take and put a little bit right in kind of one spot, not even a quarter of the way, because as you twist this up, it's all going to get onto all the other threads. And so this is my drop tube that goes down. Let's say this is a bleach tank or water tank. So this is going to connect to the underside, which it'll connect to the underside of this, and you're going to screw this in. I've already measured this. This was about 14 inches up to the top here. So I usually leave about 1.5 inches down to compensate for this fitting. And that way I should get pretty close to the bottom, but I do not want this all the way on the bottom. I want it to sit up just a little bit so it can suck the solution in. So we begin by testing it. I can see I can't get it all the way in. I'm going to have to trim this a little bit. So I'll take my PVC cutters, and I'm going to cut about that much off and see if that will work. And then, yep, that works. I can get my hand up in there. This is a little tight tank to work. So what we do is we just screw that up inside the bottom of this bulkhead. I'm going to get this screwed in so you can see how it looks. Okay, so now I've got that screwed in. That's my drop tube that's going to draw my bleach or draw my water. I don't know if you can see inside or not, but the bottom of that tube is just about that far off the bottom of the tank. And so I don't put a slice in it or angle it. I don't put any type of filter on it. The important thing is keep your tanks cleaned. If you rig your tank so that you don't have to ever open them, then they should always stay clean, and you won't be drawing up a bunch of leaves or plastic or whatever else that could get in there, dirt, all that kind of stuff. So that's how you put the drop tube in. And then you've got a fitting like this. Once again, it's a plastic fitting, so you put your thread sealant a little bit on there. Then you can put this on, just screw this in here. And then you've got your hose. This is a 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch fitting. That's what I would use on my Dougenator for my dedicated pump system. And so I would usually use a heat gun, kind of heat this up a little bit. You can use a torch, whatever you want to do. You just want to soften it a little bit so it goes on real easy. Put your hose clamp on first, and then you slide that all the way over, tighten your hose clamp down. Then this part runs out to like your Dougenator fitting for your bleach valve, if this was your bleach tank. And now you're hooked, and you can draw from the top of the tank, from the bleach tank to the Dougenator for your dedicated pump. Now, let's say that you wanted to use a smaller fitting for soap. You want a separate tank for your soap. So here's one that's a 1/2 inch fitting, but a 3/8 inch barb. You could do that if you wanted to, okay? So you can get these fittings in all different sizes. The other thing to remember is if you've got your machine or your Dougenator or whatever, and your hose is going to go straight off that way, then you want to use a 90, okay? If you're going to use, if your fitting or your hose is going to go up, then you want to use a straight barb. But you do not want to use a straight barb if you're going to go like this, because this will eventually, hose will bend down, and eventually, as it gets soft from the sun, it can eventually put a crease and hurt your flow. So you just want to make sure that you do that. Use either a 90 or a straight, depending on the direction of your hose, coming straight off or going straight up. The other thing that we do is we use this type of bulkhead fitting. Same thing. We could have a tank that would have one for bleach. Let's say our water tank. We've got one that's drawing water for our dedicated pump system. We've got another one that's drawing water for our downstream injector, because we've got a bleach tank that we're using to downstream out of too. I use the same tank downstream out of my bleach tank, and also use that same bleach tank for drawing out of my for my dedicated pump through my Dougenator. So we could have 2 or 3, 4 different bulkhead fittings doing different jobs for us. So if we're doing that on the downstream injector, what we normally will do, here's your downstream injector. And so that's a smaller hose. And so that hose would go from there all the way to the downstream injector. Or a lot of times in ours, not a lot of times, but all the time, we use one of these little 3-way valves. And so in this case, we would have the bottom portion runs to the injector, and then we'd have 1 1/4 inch hose. This is 1/4 inch hose. One hose would go over to our water tank, one over to our bleach tank, so that when we're running bleach through the injector and we're cleaning, applying to the house, we can come over and turn this valve, and now we draw water from the water tank, and it comes through, and every time we rinse on the house or turn it to the water, we're always cleaning out the injector. So that's basically how you install bulkhead fittings, using a hole saw, using the right fitting for the right size hose that you're going to use. These come in, this is a 1/2 inch threaded, 1/2 inch barb. Again, 1/2 inch threaded, 1/2 inch barb, but this is 3/8 barb. And then you can also get 3/4 inch threaded by 3/4 inch barb. So it just depends on what size hose you're using. I use 1/2 inch for everything that, especially on my king slinger, 1/2 inch hose, 1/2 inch fittings, all of that, and then 1/4 inch for downstream hose and downstream fittings for those bulkheads. So I hope that helps you guys. That's how you install bulkhead fittings, and that's how you install them with your drop tubes, using the PVC fittings, screwing them in. The one thing that I would tell you, if you're going to put one on at the bottom, it's very easy to do. You're just going to screw, use your drill to screw the hole here. And then what we will do is we'll take a hose, especially if I'm string, especially if I'm doing this by myself. It's very easy to do. But what we would do is we would take our, seal this up so it doesn't get dry. We take our bulkhead fitting, and we're going to get the bulkhead, so if it's coming through the hole here, we're going to run our string through this, and then we're going to take the string and we're going to run the string down through the hole and pull it out. This could be tied on to something, anything that can give you some slack. Once it's pulled through, you can pull this down, grab your finger through there. I've got other videos on this, and pull this through. Then you can put your fitting on, tighten it up, and then once you've got it tightened and seated against here really good, then you can pull your hose, your string out. I don't know why I keep calling it a hose, but that's basically how you do it. And then also, make sure you put that gasket on first before you do it, and then you're all set. So again, hope that helps you guys. Couple other little housekeeping type things. Hose clamps. I get all of my hose clamps like these from Lowe's, and that's where I buy them all the time. I just get packs of them. This way I know I only need to use one of 2 different size nut drivers. They fit. There's some other brands out there that these may be just a little different, and I've tried them, where this nut driver, even though it's the same size, it won't fit because the little ridges or whatever are rounded or whatever. So get in the habit of buying your hose clamps from the same place and stick with them, so that you only have to have a couple different nut drivers to take care of those. Hope that helps you guys. If you have any questions about bulkhead fittings, you can email me at pressurecleaningschool@gmail.com. Don't forget, I've got an online video school with over 215 videos on it. This will be number 216 actually. $449. It's a lifetime membership. You get access to all the videos that are already there, as well as any video that I post in the future. So if you're starting out your business, that's a great thing to have. It'll drastically, I promise you, will drastically cut your learning curve. If you need more information on it, just go to pressurecleaningschool.com, click on the top link that says classes, and you'll see a little drop down box that says online school or online video or something like that. But anyway, again, pressurecleaningschool@gmail.com if you have any questions. Hope that helps you guys. Y'all have a blessed day and keep plugging away.